Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can Muslims make alliances with the kuffar and start establishing an Islamic state?
No. Tamam. No. Prophet did not do it. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Umayyads did not do it. Abbasis did not do it. The Ottomans did not do it. The Seljuks did not do it. If anything, they fight against the kuffar state to set up an Islamic state. But there are some so-called Islamic states that make alliances with the kuffar to set up their own rival state, like the Shia, for instance. Okay, they do that, always aligning themselves with the Vatican. So that happens. Of course, not some square-head imams, okay, coming from the islands. Okay, they are international scholars, and they're saying the Ottomans, they make alliance with Russia to take over Istanbul. That one's head is not on his shoulders. It's stuck somewhere else. That's why every time he opens his mouth, is coming out. We don't accept that. And it's not true. You're making more confusion and leading people away from the truth into fitna. There is. Find out who that one is. So, you cannot set up an Islamic state. When we're talking about Islamic states, I'm referring specifically to Islamic empires, Khilafat. I'm not talking about separate kingdoms. Okay? That throughout history too, you see different Islamic kingdoms, because they don't want to obey and submit to the Khalifah. They set up their own separate thing, okay? And in order to have own power away from the Khilafat, they ask the kuffar to help them. I'm not speaking about that. That is already in the wrong way. And history has shown there were so many who were like that. Always they fail. Always. And the big one that failed was Granada, Andalusia. They were a separate Islamic empire. They were not even an empire. What empire? Which countries did they rule? Except for the Iberian Peninsula, isn't it? Where else did they rule? North Africa was controlled that time, not by them. It was only the Iberian Peninsula. And back and forth, they were going with the Christians. They were declaring their own Khilafat that was separate from the Abbasis. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made His Holy Prophet ﷺ to say, do not have two heads in Islam. There's no two heads. If there's two heads, cut one of the heads off, because if you have two heads, you have shirk, right? You're making two from one. And there's going to be confusion and complete destruction. So, the Ottomans were not ruling that time. So that time, the Islamic Empire, although it was very big, although they did a lot of things, although they excelled in so many ways, the Islamic Empire was fractured. Okay? There were so many kingdoms and dynasties that were happening that the Christians continuously, they were waging crusades. Of course, once the Ottomans took over, crusades finished. Didn't happen again. Until the last crusade, when again all the Muslim nations decide to also ally themselves to the kuffar states and to come and to disobey the Khalifah. The last crusade. What is that? Chanakala? They didn't win Chanakala. But when, who is it, Lord Allenby? Yes? When he came and he took over so many Muslim lands from the Khilafat, what did he do? Wasn't he the one I'm pretty sure it's Lord Allenby, because he was the commander-in-chief. If not him, then someone who is a commander-in-chief of the British forces, Allied forces back then. He went to Salahuddin Ayyubi's tomb, didn't he? What did he do there? He kicked the tomb. He kicked Salahuddin Ayyubi's tomb, Saladin's tomb, and he says, very dirty kuffar way, he says, wake up. We took our revenge from you. We took over Jerusalem and every other place that you had taken over hundreds of years ago. We finished you today. And it was declared as the last crusade. So, at that time, when the Spanish Islamic Empire was declared, it was separate from the Khilafat of the Abbasis. It was the last person, last surviving son, grandson of the Bani Umayyi that went to Andalusia. And he declared his own kingdom. And later on, he declared Khilafat. Not 1 year passed after he made the Imams in the masjids, in the jamis, when they're reciting the khutbah, to mention his name as the Khalifatul Islam. Not 1 year, everything was destroyed. Allah sent a heavy punishment there. That Islam was there for 800 years. And they burnt everything down. They dug up the graves of the Muslims. They burned the libraries. They burned everything that they can find. 99.9% of the Islamic civilization over 800 years they destroyed. What were the Spanish Muslims at that time were doing too? They were separate. Were they unified? No. They had different kingdoms too, inside of Grand. And they were always fighting each other. And they sought help from who? From the kuffar, from the Christians. They were paying Christian soldiers to kill their Muslim brothers. Later, when the Christians became more powerful, the Christians were hiring Muslim soldiers to kill other Muslims. Yeah. So that happened. When the Ottomans came, Alhamdulillah, so all these lands then came together under one Khalifah, under one head. And under one head, under submission to one ruler. And then you see, over 700 years, Islam slowly started to rise and rise. Not slowly, very quickly, and spreading. Not only Islam, but Sufism, Tasawwuf, started to go all the way into the heart of Europe, to Bosnia and the Balkans, all the way to Africa, all the way to Russia, to China, to Indonesia, spreading tariqat. Yes, that is a kingdom, and that is a dynasty, and that is an empire. That was holding on to the Prophet's way strongly, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has supported. It was strong. When did it become weak? Always in Islam, it became weak from the inside, never from outside. There was so much confusion, fitna, and betrayal. And the time came for that Khalifah to step down according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And he says, I have to step down now for the events of the Akhir Zaman to happen. And that's exactly what happened. So, yes. Were there any Islamic states that asked the kuffar to help them? Yes. Those are Islamic states. It's not the state of the Khalifah. The Khalifah did not. Especially in establishing an Islamic Khilafat. He did not. They may use, now we're entering into politics, which so many people, they don't have basic knowledge of politics. We cannot talk so much about it because there's a lot of confusion now. It's going to happen. The Khalifah and the Khilafat may use, may play with certain kuffar nations one against the other, but it is not asking their help to support the Islamic State. That is completely different. Inshallah Rahman, we will get more understanding as time goes by. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.